TED conference 8 years ago on why nations should pursue soft power, using the Indian example, the organizers wanted me to talk to you about how has this changed in recent years and what exactly India can do to, quoting the organizers here, craft a better perception of India in the global community. Well, as India rises in the 21st century, there's no question that much has been written and said over our increasing prowess in the traditional sense. The fourth largest standing army in the world, consistent economic growth in the last couple of decades. So many have spoken of the country as a future world leader, or even as the next superpower, quote unquote, alongside the other Asian giant China. But as I've been pointing out for years, I'm not terribly comfortable with such phrases. The only world leadership we can realistically aspire to seems to be in the population charts, where we are set to overtake China, according to the UN demographers, by 2024. The blessings of the concept's inventor, my friend Joseph Nye of Harvard. Nye coined the term in 1990 to account for the influence that a country wields beyond its military, economic, or hard power. Traditionally, power in world politics was seen in terms of military power, right? The side with a larger army was always considered likely to win. But even in the past, this wasn't enough. After all, the US lost the Vietnam War, the Soviet Union was defeated in Afghanistan, and the US discovered in its first few years in Iraq after the fall of Baghdad, the wisdom of Talleyrand's adage that the one thing you cannot do with a bayonet is to sit on it. So what worked for the conquest didn't work for the occupation. Now that's where this issue of soft power comes in. As Nye put it, a country's power rests on its ability to alter the behavior of others to get what it wants. And so he says there are three ways you can do that. There's coercion, or sticks. There's payments, inducements, or carrots. And there's attraction, or soft power. If you have the ability to attract others through your cultural assets, your values, your foreign policies, then you can economize on the sticks and the carrots. Now take this country, for instance, and Mohandas has already alluded to this. The US has traditionally been a haven for immigrants, the land of the American dream, the promise that anyone can be anything if they work hard enough here. It's also the home of Boeing and Intel, of Google and Apple, of Microsoft and MTV, Hollywood and Disneyland, Diet Coke and Levi's Jeans, McDonald's and Starbucks. In short, some of the most recognizable and influential brands and industries around the world. The attractiveness of these assets and of the American lifestyle they represent is that they enable the US to persuade rather than compel others to adopt its agenda. Indeed, while the US has used officially sponsored initiatives, from the Voice of America to the Fulbright scholarships, to promote its soft power around the world, arguably Hollywood and MTV have done far more to promote the idea of America as a desirable and admirable society than the US, or than any US governmental endeavor could have done. So soft power, in other words, is only created partly by governments and partly despite governments, partly by deliberate action, partly by accident. That's why it used to be said that even the demonstrators outside American embassies around the world were chanting, "Yankee, go home, but take me with you." Now, in this sense, soft power acts both as an alternative and a complement to hard power. Soft power is what people think about a country as soon as they hear its name mentioned. Hard power is what they feel when they confront a country. Hard power is exercised, soft power is evoked. Now at TED, I'd spent some time discussing the profound transformations India has gone through in recent decades, the importance of connectivity, for example, and the overall design of the country's soft power. Because in today's information era, we have a country now where almost every Indian owns a cell phone. Just last year, we've crossed 1 billion mobile subscriptions, making us the second largest group of mobile users anywhere in the world, after China, but we're growing faster than China. And this, as I mentioned then, has resulted in the empowerment of the underclass and in its own way helped develop India's soft power capabilities. Technology has transformed the lives of ordinary people, of the Aam Aadmi. I'd mentioned how fishermen in India are now equipped with cellular devices. Fishermen, for example, returning with they have GPS that shows them where the best shoals of fish are. Once they catch the fish and they're returning, they can call any market town along the coast on their mobile phones to find out where they'll get the best price and make an informed decision where to sell their catch. Now, I mention this because in today's world of instant mass communications, enabled by the internet, countries are increasingly judged by a global public fed on an incessant diet of internet news, televised images, videos taken on the cell phones of passers-by and zapped around on WhatsApp, email gossip. Now, this has significant implications, including the fact that countries can no longer monopolize official information and that their use of hard power is more scrutinized than ever. Now, the 16th anniversary of 9/11 is just 3 days away. The outpouring of goodwill for Washington in the wake of 9/11. I think of Le Monde's famous assertion, "We're all Americans now," which actually echoed something I'd said on CNN the very same night when I said we're all New Yorkers now. And the squandering of that goodwill by America's over-reliance on hard power in the invasion and occupation of Iraq and the related global war on terror are instructive. The steep decline, for example, in America's image. One said that Britain's national dish was no longer fish and chips, it was chicken tikka masala. UK curry houses today employ more people than the coal mining, shipbuilding, and iron and steel industries combined. So the empire can strike back. But India's soft power is not just what is represented by the allure of biryani, Bollywood, and Bhangra, the kinds of things I did speak about at that TED conference 8 years ago. Rather, even more important are the values and principles for which India stands. After all, Mahatma Gandhi won India its independence through the use of soft power, because non-violence and satyagraha were indeed classic uses of soft power and moral force before those terms were even coined. India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, was also a skilled exponent of soft power. He developed a role for India in the world based entirely on its civilizational history and moral standing, making India the voice of the oppressed and the marginalized against the big power hegemons of the day. This gave the country enormous standing and prestige across the world and strengthened our own self-respect as we stood, proud and independent, on the world stage. But of course, soft power comes with its own set of limitations, as Nehru himself was unfortunate enough to have witnessed during his time. The greatest flaw in Nehru's approach was that his soft power was unrelated to the acquisition of hard power. As the humiliation of the military defeat by China in 1962 demonstrated, soft power has crippling limitations in national security terms. Because instead of Theodore Roosevelt's famous maxim, speak softly and carry a big stick, Nehru's India spoke loudly but carried no stick at all. In a tough neighborhood, the rhetoric of peace can only take you so far. Soft power becomes credible when there is hard power behind it.